Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast.
Hey there, Karma Crew. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Mind Your Own Karma, the Adoption Chronicles. Today I have author Danielle Gaudette on the show. She has the book, The Healing Tree, and the first half of the book is her adoption experience, and she's been on the show discussing that before. But today we're going to be discussing her healing journey. And let me tell you a little bit about Danielle. Danielle is a body and brain coach and author of The Healing Tree, an adoptee story about hurting, healing, and letting the light shine through. After her reunion with her birth mother 24 years ago, she began an energy practice to process the unraveling of her primal wound. She is now a 20-year senior trainer and seeks to share those healing principles and practices through her emotional Self-Mastery for Adoptees course to help others find the courage to go inward and heal their hearts. Here is my interview with Danielle Gaudette. So once again, we're welcoming Danielle Gaudette to the show. Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
So we've had Danielle on telling her adoption story, and she has her book, Healing Tree. And so the first time she was on, we just kind of talked about your adoption story and focused on that. And today we're going to be focusing more on the healing part, which is the second part of the book. But if you can just kind of give us a short reminder of your adoption story.
Yeah, sure. So the very short version is that, well, basically, I was adopted at 10 days old, and then 21 years later, when I was 21, I reunited with my birth mother. She had been looking for me all along, and I had a very close connection with my adopted family. So I wasn't really searching to have a relationship with her, but when I got to college, I got curious. I mean, I was always curious, but then it kind of became like, I really need to know now. You know, people are asking me all these questions I can't answer, and I felt different, and I felt a missing piece. So I went to reach out to the Catholic Charity Bureau where I was adopted through, and then it just happened really fast because she had been looking for me. Yeah. Ultimately, the International Sound X Reunion Registry, we both became members. So we were both kind of working on it at the same time. So it happened within kind of a 6-month span, but really shorter than that because I wrote a letter, traveled abroad, and when I came back, it happened within like 2 weeks. So basically, the door opened really fast for me in meeting my birth mother, and then birth father, and then siblings, and then all these people were like started pouring in this door that I don't think I was really actually ready to open the way that I did.
Yeah. So how do you see adoption trauma affecting you in the past?
Prior to that, I think that I just struggled. I didn't, draw a straight line to it, but if I look back now, I struggled with so much insecurity and lack of confidence, hypersensitivity, very overly emotional, high levels of anxiety, very high levels of anxiety and fear, lots of excessive worry to the degree of like neuroses. And then my adoptive mother also, she struggled with mental illness, and that was a big part of it. It was like two things compounded, exacerbated. And yeah, it just didn't feel normal, the degrees of my fears and my kind of inability to manage my emotional world. Like I look around and be like, everybody else seems to be doing okay, but I'm like barely holding on. And then after I reunited with my birth mother, that very like thin rope that I was sort of walking on my whole life, just trying to keep it together, it just kind of snapped. And I really felt like I was losing my mind. And I really felt like at that moment, my, what I would call my primal wound, and this part of me that was directly connected to my relinquishment trauma just became like spewing up in my face, really in my relationship with trying to have a relationship with my birth mother, trying to juggle all these people and manage all these feelings that were coming up in those relationships. It just felt like they were all triggering the wound over and over in a way that almost didn't make sense.
Yeah. Do you think that it was difficult to make those relationships work because maybe you didn't really have a relationship with yourself, or you were still trying to figure out you?
Yeah. It was very hard to make those relationships work. I think a couple of reasons. One, because of what I just said, I think that the relationship itself just triggers the wound. This is my personal experience. It's hard for me to say, oh, I'm wounded because you gave me up for adoption. Like, I can't remember that moment. It's more subtle and like complicated than that. So it was all really coming up in the getting to know each other and all the things that I was discovering inside of me, which, to your point, was that I don't know where I am because I'm so busy trying to like make everybody else happy.
Yeah.
And be a good girl and a good daughter and do things quote unquote right. I had a high standard for myself that I was like killing myself with. So I felt really lost in all of that.
So when that primal wound opened, did that kind of exacerbate all that list of things that you talked about? Did it just compound that into 1,000?
Yeah. And I think it started to become clear. I think prior to that, I was just trying to survive day to day. I might have not even been able to even name those things.
Yeah.
But after it started opening, I was like, totally. And, I'm getting older and I'm working in groups and communities and organizations. And I'm like, everybody doesn't struggle the way I struggle. Just such low self-esteem. Feel like my nervous system is like burning up 24 hours, like sweating through each day. Really noticing that and really seeing it even more like exaggerated when I would communicate, especially with my birth mother.
Yeah. The definition of survival mode right there.
Yeah. And just like tense inside, like clenched, squeezing, terrified, but trying to, just hold it together and have a normal conversation. But inside is like, this isn't normal. I mean, parallel to that, I had already started doing my healing work and my mind, body, energy practice. So I was becoming increasingly aware of how out of balance I was. I'd be like, fine. And then I'd be on the phone with my birth mother and I'd be just dying inside.
Yeah.
Falling apart. Like, I don't know if I can hold on when it didn't have to be that way. It was unnecessarily large reactions.
Looking back, it's like, how did we survive those days? Like, just hearing you describe it just is like, oh my gosh.
Right.
It makes me tired and just like so drained,
I know.
How do you do that day after day after day after day?
I know, until you feel like I can't do this anymore.
Exactly. So we have a mutual good friend and fellow podcaster, Simon Ben, and he talks about the fact that, and he believes that adoptees, or really anyone, they're unwoundable. And what do you believe? Do you believe that we are unwoundable?
I completely understand that because of the spiritual journey that I've been on, and in connecting with my true self, what I would call my true self, my essence, not meaning my birth family, like my bloodline true self. I mean more at the essence, spiritually, like at a soul level. In discovering that part of myself, I found enormous peace and healing because it felt like that's the part of me that cannot be wounded. Like, if I can just get back there, that light is there, that love is there, there's like energy breathing there, and I'm okay there. Right. So I feel that is my unwoundable part. But at the same time, I feel that it's been very important for me to recognize that just in experiencing being relinquished, being given up for adoption, it does something to the human psyche, which is not my true self part. That's more related to my ego part. But I also have to work with that and deal with that and live with that as long as I'm living here with this body. So I have that part has a wound that I will always have to kind of work with. But when I can shift and align with my essence, I can take comfort in the part of me that has never been wounded at all.
And how do you do that? How do you align with that part of you?
Yeah, that's the practice. That's
the magic sauce.
Yeah, that's it. Because, well, the starting point was discovering that place inside of me. You know, you have to feel that a few times to really, it's all about feeling. That's been my, like, awakening the sense. That's the kind of term that I use. First, I awaken the sense that I have that part. It was there before, but I didn't sense it. I was just consumed in my own madness, as I would like to call what was going on inside myself. Right. I was totally consumed with that and consumed with the outside world, right? My mother, my other mother, like everything I had to do outside of me, I was not aware of this place inside. So first I had to find it, feel it, awaken it.
Yeah.
And then since then, that was like 20 something years ago, I took a workshop. In my case, I took a workshop where I discovered it, but I think people find it in many ways, but that's how it was for me, like finding my true self workshop. But the real practice has been since that moment, trying to recognize all the parts of me that cover it.
Yeah.
Get underneath them, like not allow them to block me, try to keep opening them and making space so that I can because once I make space, I can reconnect naturally. But the problem is these layers that cover, and a lot of times I don't even realize it. And that's the ongoing self-discovery process.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, the first part of your book was the adoption story. The second half is the healing journey. And I wanted to read just the first couple lines of the second half. And the title is My True Self, My Absolute Value. And you say, much of my life struggle has come from misbelieving that the emotions I felt, the way others treated me, and the way I hurt were a testament to my value, my worth. I believed in what my stories told me about myself. Do you remember having that like conscious light bulb moment and realizing that?
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Did I have a light bulb moment, or was it just this ongoing? I feel like it's a little bit been an ongoing realization. I do remember, and I wrote about this in Healing Tree, having one intense moment. I was taking a healing course where I was creating this healing water. That's like in part 1, I think. And I realized I was praying while I was doing this exercise, and I was meditating and praying for my mother, my adoptive mother, who's always struggled with this mental illness. And something that was a light bulb moment where something kind of shifted in my brain suddenly, where it was like, oh, I have a track in my brain that says, oh, my mother was sick when I was young. Life was really hard for me. I feel sad. I'm sad.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of, I could see like 3 points. Yeah, like this leads to this, leads to this. And then suddenly something rearranged in my psyche through that just time to breathe and be aware of myself and really kind of feel the purest place in my heart that really just wanted the best for my mother, regardless of the life that like I lived and the way that it affected me. And through having that pure heart and that pure wish, something shifted suddenly where I saw, oh, my mother was sick. It was hard. So now I'm trying to heal myself, and I gone on this journey to meet my true self and awaken the healing energy inside of me. And I'm so blessed.
Yeah.
Like that experience led me actually to a really great blessing. That was a light bulb moment to realize there's a totally different way of seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also completely true. And
Yes.
one makes me feel sick and sad and heavy and blocked. And the other one makes me feel joyful and hopeful and grateful.
Yeah.
Something
and having that compassion for what you had to do to survive back then, and having compassion for that whole process, and forgiving yourself for getting yourself in that loop and living that way.
Yeah, right.
It's huge.
Right. There has to be the moment where you I think that's probably what happened in that light bulb moment, like the moment where you stop judging yourself.
Yeah.
For thinking that way, for being depressed. You just accept yourself. That happened in that moment. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like it's been why I said, I don't know if it was one moment, it's kind of an ongoing thing, is because I feel like it's just been a process to discover more and more of those stories inside.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't
feel like that process still goes on. Like,
yeah, definitely. Sometimes I don't even realize what story is controlling me, and it takes some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes time to see and get under it.
So what made you decide to start on this personal healing journey, and to kind of talk about what it looked like, what helped you?
Yeah. So after I was in college and after I met my birth mother, so I was 21, I was entering into my third year of university. Anyway, I started really, really struggling. Like I thought I was going insane. I mean, I was having very strange, paranoid thoughts. I was feeling like I'm not okay. And I tried to go to a therapist and it didn't help me very much. I've had a therapy that was very helpful, but this particular therapist I felt like I was doing more of trying to tell her, trying to like,
yeah,
it wasn't working. And so I started having this feeling like I've got to figure this out inside of me. I had a sense like this problem is inside of me. I was just so overwhelmed inside. Like I needed to sort through this inner chaos. So I was like, maybe I should do some yoga, that was the starting point, like inner healing. What is inner healing? I didn't know anything. So I did a little yoga in college, and then soon it was time to graduate. But I was still feeling like very unhappy, very unsure of what I'm going to do with my life, like scared of everything. I was like, I need to get a grip on this. Otherwise, I cannot start the next chapter. I don't know how to start. So I graduated. I found this yoga. It was really body and brain energy center. It's yoga, Tai Chi, meditation is what they were offering on their sign. And I was like, oh yeah, I need all of those, So I went, and it was my first time to really experience energy training. I didn't know that that's what it was going to be. Very, very simple exercises, not Indian based. It's based from a Korean tradition. Very, very simple exercises, but those exercises help to move blocked energy and balance imbalanced energy, and even just awaken the sense of energy through energy meditation. And just feeling that energy and starting to feel it move. It felt like a dark cloud was like lifting over my head. I was like, what is this? I love this. I want more. And so I started going more and more and more, because the better I felt, the more I wanted to feel that way. I had been trying for a long time. I had been wishing and wanting to find peace, and I couldn't.
So getting even that little bit of relief had to be just like a big sigh of relief, feeling,
right.
Oh my gosh, that there is maybe something out there that can work.
Yeah, like coming up, like I can breathe, I don't
Definitely.
feel depressed today. Yeah. So it started shifting, and soon I took the workshop, and it all really opened from there. It was really what I was looking for, was to find peace inside of me.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you were going through all that, you probably had a lot of strong emotions and they were, all over the place. How do you think we should look at emotions, in your opinion? What do we do with emotions?
Yeah, there's a lot of turbulent emotions in there for sure. We really need to come to understand, I think, first what emotions are. Emotions are energy. That's why I love energy practice, because practicing to move energy, you move emotions naturally.
Hmm.
Things that felt like impossible to me at once, like after I started just moving the energy, like they started falling off. It didn't cure everything, it didn't solve everything, but it started to make me see, oh, this is just a feeling. It's like a wave. This energy. It's kind of like the weather inside of me. Sometimes it's raining, right? Sometimes it's stormy. And then the sun comes out. Emotions are like that. They
Yeah.
move like energy. So if my process was realizing that, and then starting to get a little bit of distance from the emotions that really gripped me and controlled me, like make a little space.
Hmm.
First, realize that they're just energy and try to feel that inside my body. That was part of the process. And then next was realize that they're not me, right? They're not that true essence.
Yeah.
There's another self in here. So I had to practice to do a lot of like making space, which was about allowing myself to feel them,
Hmm.
to see them, with a little bit of distance, a little bit of separation. So did I answer your question about
Hmm.
yeah, this is how I realize emotions are like weather, or they're like dust inside that needs to, it can be moved. It's not a brick wall in there. It's
Yeah.
a cement wall. That's the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I think, we label emotions, certain ones as good emotions, certain one as bad emotions, but they're really not good or bad. They're all kind of like the little warning light in your car, like, why am I feeling this way? Making
Yeah,
that space to kind of look at it, have a different perspective on it and not react from that place too.
exactly. Yeah, if
Yeah.
we judge them, then we can't do anything with them.
Yeah. So at the end of the book, you wrote your birth mother, Kate, what you called a healing letter. And in that letter, you apologized to her about a lot of things. But I just wanted to read one line that really struck me. And you said, "Please forgive me for my lack of compassion, my disrespect, and my insistence on suffering for so many years." And that line, the insistence on suffering for so many years, really, really got to me. Talk about what you meant by that.
The insistence on suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I held on to it, and I couldn't understand what was happening inside of me. So I kept really focusing kind of outward and like insisting on having everything was a struggle for me.
Yeah.
I don't even know if she really knows that or not, but like every conversation, every meeting, every time was a struggle. And I was mad, I was sad, I was anxious, I was scared, I was blaming, I was, I don't even know if she even really knew, but I knew. I
Yeah.
knew. And I think she, to some degree knew, because we had a lot of ups and downs.
Hmm.
So, yeah, when I wrote that letter, I purposefully chose to use the from Ho'oponopono, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Because for me, when I finally got to a place of acceptance, even just a little bit of acceptance, not even complete acceptance, but even just a little bit, it feels like that's the most healing thing to do, to be able to just say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And part of that was I knew that I was like struggling and suffering, and I was kind of blaming her
Hmm.
for longer. Like I prolonged blaming her until I realized that that's what I was doing.
Mm.
Until
How did she react to that letter or after she read it?
how she react to the letter? Well, the first time I was like, what do you think about the letter? The first time she read it, and she's like, oh, it's lovely. And then when the book actually came out, she called me right away and was like, I opened right to the letter and my heart is so moved. That was like after the book, actually, when it was finalized. So I feel like it also took her a little time to let the message that I was really trying to share with her sink in.
Mm.
Yeah, that was how she responded. Yeah, I wrote that letter for her but mostly for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you gotten any backlash from that part of the book from any adoptees?
Not that part. I have other parts though.
We don't have to get into it. I just was wondering.
No, not that part. But I can understand if people don't understand.
Yeah.
Everybody's at their own place and
Yes,
space and time. So
definitely.
to those who did have complaints about my book, that's all I said was like, this is a healing story, my healing story, and this was what was healing for me. And
Yeah.
I'm not telling anybody else what they need to do or think.
Right. Right. So it sounds like through this process, you found what I always call your healing combination. And now you're wanting to share that work with others. And you are doing an emotional self mastery course that's coming up. You've done it before a couple times, I believe, before now, but a new one's coming up. So do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so self mastery is all like I write out the steps of self mastery in part 2 of Healing Tree because these are the steps these are the tools that I used back at the beginning of my journey with body and brain when I was discovering my primal wound and unraveling and trying to put myself back together. And I used these principles and practices very diligently, very consistently. I kind of held on to them and they helped me so much. And about 10 years after being a teacher, a trainer, I decided to build a course around these steps. There's 8 steps. And I saw how it really, really helped the students like significantly make changes with their relationship with themselves and how they handle their emotions and integrating these things into their lives so they feel more confident in their lives and more fulfilled and more kind of creatorship in their lives and more self-acceptance, more self-love, which is the same as happened to me. So I was like, oh, this is universal, not just me. So I've been teaching it for about 10 years. And then after writing Healing Tree and connecting with the adoption community more, I felt like, I want to have a space where just adoptees can come and practice these steps. And we can also, it's not, it's a class. So it's not necessarily like a support group, but it is a place where you could bring up your inner struggles, like your inner layers as an adoptee, where other adoptees completely understand, including me, and we can process those layers. I'm still using the same principles. They're just universal principles of how to just have a new relationship with your inner world, period, like a more healthy relationship. But I wanted to create a safe space for adoptees to just be with adoptees only and to be able to talk directly about these things.
Do you have like one story that stands out to you? Maybe that an adoptee, that has some kind of crazy turnaround
Oh,
that you could
wish.
share?
Well, okay, so let me just say that I just started this now. So I created a pilot course this year because it's my first time to do it with adoptees only.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to build a pilot to just see how that goes and how do adoptees feel when they do this and how is it working? So I've done 2 pilots so far. So that's it. I've only done 2. We've done 2 rounds of 8 weeks. And I feel like it's been successful. I got a lot of positive feedback from the adoptees. Some of them felt like they were able to connect more deeply with themselves, like find a deeper place of self-love, self-trust. A lot of them learned more how to let go of some of the things, like the stories or the things we beat ourselves for and hurt ourselves with, bringing them into light. The course is a lot about realizing how much that's been controlling me. So I heard that from a lot of adoptees. There was one adoptee who she was really going through a hard time, and she kept having like a visceral reaction. She was a very sensory person. So when she would be struggling, her stomach and this and that like would be really acting up. And so we took time to go deeper into that, and she just realized like the depth of her resistance and her kind of holding and fighting inside. Fighting with her life situation, and on top of that, exacerbated by fighting inside her own mind. And when she was able to unravel that, she realized, she said something like, before I felt like my triggers were actually going to kill me.
Yeah.
When I was triggered, I felt like I was actually might die. And now I don't feel that anymore. Now I know it's just a trigger. And this is
huge.
So she made huge space from that. So things like that, so I talk about in the course too, like these small victories are huge. We have to celebrate them. Yeah. Because then that starts to become a new habit, a new way of seeing.
Yeah.
Remembering, I felt this before, I can get back there again.
It's so funny how much we just hold on to something that's hurting us so badly. And we just don't want to let it go because it's what we know and it's so familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't realize we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. We don't realize we're doing it. So it's a lot about just realizing what I'm doing. Like part of self-mastery is like to know myself is to heal myself. Like the deeper I know, the more healing is happening.
Yeah. And I think what a lot of adoptees, they're afraid to let go because they're afraid of what is on the other side of letting go. But I heard this saying recently and I just loved it. And it was, it's short-term pain instead of long-term suffering.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. To just let go and look at it for a second and have that distance where you can look at it objectively and see it for what it is. And like you said, yep, that was me. I own it, and having the compassion for yourself and getting past it. Oh, what a relief. Like,
I know.
Really
I think of it like monsters in the closet for little kids. They're like, oh my God, there's a monster. It's going to eat me. It's going to eat my whole family. Like it's getting bigger. Like the story is building in your mind. And then that one moment of pain, like you're saying, like of opening the closet door and turning on the light is so scary. You think you're going to die, but you do it. Oh, there's not even a monster in here, actually.
Yeah.
As long as I want to keep that door shut, it's building and it's growing and it's scarier and this is going to happen and this is going to happen. It's those stories that are making us sick and suffering much worse.
I was talking to somebody else and I always say it's like that Jack in the Box that you had when you were a kid and you turn the thing and you're just waiting for it to pop out.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm scared with every little turn,
Right. Yeah. You have to be
living in fear. So how long is the course? Is it online?
Mm-hmm. It runs for 8 weeks. Once a week. It is online, Zoom. We're doing a 1.5 hour class on Zoom for 8 weeks. I think the next one will be my last pilot.
Okay.
And then from next year, I'm going to restructure the course a little. So time will change, price will, all the things like taking all the kind of information that I'm gathering now, and then I'll make an actual set course. But it's a really good chance if anyone wants to come to the pilot, because the pilot is just, I'm giving a lot.
Yeah.
So see how they respond.
So we'll have the links in the show notes, but if you want to kind of just say where we can find you and the course.
Yeah. So probably the easiest way is on my website, DanielleGaudette.com. There is a services page. It's on the bar, right? If you click the services page, you can see several things, but you will definitely find the self-mastery for adoptees landing page and link right there.
Okay. And I'll put all those in the show notes as well. In closing, I always like to ask, what would you like struggling adoptees to know?
Yeah, I want struggling adoptees to know that there is hope, and the hope is actually within them. And I say that delicately because we also need our support, right? We need our community and our therapists and our safe people.
Yeah.
But we just need those to kind of come alongside with us. Really, the peace that we're hoping for is actually within.
Yeah.
It might not be easy and it might not always be pretty, but if you really want to find it, it's there waiting for you. And it can be cultivated, it can be grown, the connection with ourselves can be developed. Nothing needs to be hopeless.
Yeah. And the self-confidence and power that you get from experiencing that power within you is just money can't buy that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Completely.
Well, thank you so much for offering this to the community, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on today and letting us know about the course. I hope people contact you about it and that it's super successful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa.
I just love when adoptees bring what has helped them to the community. And if you think that this emotional self-mastery course that Danielle is offering is part of your healing combination, I have all the links in the show notes. Please check it out. She's doing her last pilot course, 8 weeks, and it is at a drastic discount. So if you don't get in this time, the price will be going up quite significantly in the future. So I suggest that you go check it out and see if maybe this is something that you would like to discover and explore. And in closing, I have a huge announcement to make. I am now a certified somatic mindful guided imagery practitioner. SMGI uses a unique combination of hypnotherapy, meditation, guided imagery, and inner journey work to help you unblock anything that's getting in your way of living your best life. It can also connect you to powerful inner resources that you may have lost along the way. Essential parts of you that are needed for you to live a purpose-filled life. Rest assured, this is not the hypnotherapy that you see at the fair. Far from it. This hypnotherapy is a light hypnotherapy that actually you will remember anything and everything that is important or beneficial for you to remember, and you are in total control the whole time. If you find yourself struggling with trauma, anxiety, depression, sadness and grief, a loss of self, feeling stuck, post-traumatic stress, body pain, addictions, then SMGI might be something that you want to look into. If you would like to know more, you can go to my website, mindyourownkarma.com. I am still working on my somatic mindful guided imagery website. I'm not sure if it will be up at the time of this episode, but it is called somatichealingjourneys.com. You can also email me at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com. You know I am on all the socials as well and YouTube. So get a hold of me if you would like to know more about SMGI or if you would like to come and tell your story on the podcast. As always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.